Hey guys, today we are talking NHS recruitment, and as you know, this does excite me because it's one of the opportunities that I never get tired of talking about. And I've come to that realization and conclusion that if you are in the UK as a migrant and you're a caregiver, each and every one of us really need that NHS experience. And when I talk NHS experience, I'm not just saying everybody should go there permanently, should be sponsored there. Some people really like it where they are. Some people are in really good organizations that have got exposure, training opportunities, organizations that are paying them so well. However, when you couple all of that with NHS experience, that is everything. You got leverage, you got options, you got excellence in your pocket, and you are positioned for success going forward. So today we are talking about some of the things that I've come to realize. As you know, behind the scenes in my Facebook subscription, I do one-to-one support sessions, and I've been receiving overwhelming subscriptions and responses, and as such, I have had the opportunity to engage with so many of you and counting, and we're still going. If you're watching this video, you want to go into the NHS, you don't know where to begin with your personal statement, your CV and general application, we are the hub to be based on experience, based on day-to-day doing this all the time. So we really hope to see you there. But the things that I've come to realize over time, one of those things that I've realized is how competitive it has come. Sometimes we would have seen a vacancy and we are working on it, we are working on the personal statement and the application, and by the time that we finish, that vacancy is closed well before even the date that they would have said on the application that they're closing. That shows you how the number of overwhelming applications and applicants that are going into this. People are going into it full on, and it's exciting news. However, if you're watching this video, you're a follower, a subscriber from any of our platforms, this should tell you that there are things that we need to do. So with it being so competitive, I always say when I speak to people, what is it that you have that gives you an edge over others? And I never get tired of sharing my story of how I got into the NHS. It had started becoming so competitive. I mean, with obviously things like work-life balance that you get when you are in the NHS, stability, job security, and of course career progression pathways and opportunities, and also a chance to work anywhere in the country. You know, you can transfer, internal transfers are possible, whether within the organization, within the trust that you are in, or within the broader NHS. So that has led to people really wanting to transition into it. However, it's not everyone that's going to go in. But what is it that you can do that will let you go in, that will have you maximize on this opportunity? Part and parcel of those things is not even just training that you need to do. Yes, training is one of those things that you need to look into. Having a care certificate has become a huge requirement, essential criteria. Your care certificate, 15 standards. If you're working in the UK and you haven't had your 15 standards care certificate, you need to get your hands on it, because it's one of the things really that they do require. Also, having an NVQ level 3, level 2 is an added advantage, or even when you have got a diploma in adult and social care. Those are part and parcel of the entry requirements. Things like functional skills are things that you need to do. I mean, if you've had 2+ years in the UK, that's enough time for you to start settling, start looking at how best you can upskill. Also, your GCSE maths and English. I always say don't underestimate the fact that you can read and write, and you can evidence that with your GCSE maths and English. One of the things as well that I want to touch on today is experience. I was sharing with someone the other day, and I say to them, you know what, now everybody has got like over 6 months care experience, over a year care experience, because it's been a year plus since people last came to the country, because this pathway closed last year. So the last batch of people that came last year came in the summer, and we're in the summer 2026. So nearly everyone has got 6 months plus care experience. So that becomes like general and basic. You cannot say I've got care experience and you expect to have an edge over others, because everybody now has got that care experience. So what is it that you would regard as an advantage really? These are things that you can work on. Part and parcel of those things, I always say, you know what, get yourself 1 foot in. How do you get yourself 1 foot in is one of the questions that most of you will be asking. do not underestimate volunteering experiences. Volunteering in the NHS, I've seen firsthand people that have come to me and said, you know what, Flo, I volunteered. Then from volunteering, I got sponsorship. Flo, I volunteered. From volunteering, I went on to bank. From bank, I got sponsored. What that does is, I'll share with you a bit of my story and background, just in case you haven't watched any of my videos where I shared how I got into the NHS. So I was applying like what everybody else is doing, sending in applications week in, week out, not one, not two, not five, but 10s, 20s, 50 applications a week. And I was getting no response whatsoever. I was actually getting rejections as response, no positive response, no invite to interviews, until I attended a recruitment event, which was for bank healthcare support workers. That was a life-changing opportunity. It was a game changer. I know I've spoken to people about joining bank, and then you speak to someone 6 months later, still they haven't done anything about it. I'll share with you a bit of based on experience. The NHS needs you. The NHS need workers. Some of these trusts may not be sponsoring at the minute, but they do need staff. So their bank staff really is a complement to that. Bank staff are needed. I mean, I see it. I'm in the NHS and I know how dire the situation is when it comes to staffing. So when I got into the NHS, and what they do is they require you to finish all your training, mandatory training, before you can do any shifts. And guess what? I didn't stop applying. I was doing my training and still applying. And I do remember there was one week when there were loads of applications of adverts, job adverts from the trust that I work for. And then I applied to all of them. Guess what? I got 3 interview invites. I hadn't changed or done much with my personal statement, to be honest. But there is one thing that I now believe really got me through. I remember that, there's one of those questions that they ask you as part and parcel of the application to say, do you work for the NHS? And I went, yes, because I joined bank. I didn't even overthink it, because a lot of people would say, well, if I work bank, should I say I work for the NHS? Yes, you do. You're in their books. You should. Some people would say, well, I'm only volunteering. Should I say I work? Come on. You turn up every day. You are in their books. You are in their, you do work for them. So that's the one thing that I know I changed, and it changed everything for me. So this is where I say, always have that one thing that you can say, I've got an edge over others. One thing that you can leverage on. One thing that will work to your advantage. And for me, it was just the fact that I stated that I worked for the NHS, and I got interview invites, 3 interview invites, and I went to one. They liked me, I liked them, and that was it. So these are some of the things that I'm actually encouraging you to do. You want to go into the NHS. Yes, I'm not saying stop applying. Be applying for job roles, permanent job roles, but at the same time, if you haven't started working for the NHS already, contemplate joining bank. Some of these organizations, you can actually reach out on their websites. You just type in on Google, bank team, and then you type in the name of your trust, and then you say bank team. There will be contact details there. There will be guidance on how you join those teams. For some trusts, you join directly. For some, you join through NHS professionals. All of those are worth doing. There's this one powerful one that I really like. I've always urged people to say, you know what, be bold enough to just approach people. Go to your trust. Go on that mighty desk. Go on that reception desk and just inquire. You lose nothing. One of the things that you're guaranteed is someone will guide you in the right direction. Also, one other thing when it comes to these bold decisions is just pick up that phone and ring. You'll be guided accordingly. Go onto that website, write that email, and send through that application. It will work in your favor later on. Don't sleep on volunteering. I've come across vacancies for volunteering. Actually, they say volunteer to career, which means it's part and parcel of the things that they consider when they are hiring. That volunteering experience will give you an edge over others. And I hope to share in future videos in detail what is entailed in volunteering. When you volunteer for the NHS, what does that involve? So basically what I'm saying is, be willing to play the long game. Already you are in employment, but you know already the limitations where you are at. You know the situation, what the situation is like where you work. Start positioning yourself. Start joining bank, joining volunteering, and then from there you can transition into, sponsorship. Part and parcel of why as well I talk mostly about joining bank and volunteering is access to training. You literally have got the same access to the trainings that permanent staff have. However, the other extra thing, when I compare it with someone who is on bank or volunteering versus someone who is out there and wanting to get into the NHS with sponsorship, is direct proximity and networking. You're already working on the wards, they're seeing how you work, they are getting a chance to experience you and to fall in love with you and really want to work with you. Just last week I was talking to somebody, I had worked with them for a long time and they were on bank, and they shared with me the good news that they had actually got a permanent job. But they'd spent, I think, nearly close to a year on bank. But they got a chance to like be handpicked because the managers there, the ward there, they loved her. They were seeing what she was doing, and they were like, this is the person that we want. So this could be you. Positioning is very key. I know it firsthand. The third thing that I want to share with you that one can do really is working on your personal statement. One of the things that I share with people when I talk to them, I say, you know what, when I look at the things that I know now, based on working on the NHS, based on, you know, the things that I do behind the scenes, interview coaching, personal statement reviews, CV reviews, I am ashamed to say, how did I even go through? But then I said as well, my personal statement wasn't the best, but I went through because I had the proximity exposure and also experience as a bank healthcare assistant within that same trust. So now that it's that competitive, this is not the time where you just do anyhow with your personal statement. You have to pay attention to it because it's the one thing that really they look at that will get you through that door. And like I've been sharing, we have started our subscription group. If you know, go on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to my Facebook page, and then when you subscribe, you join a community of people that we support with these applications, these reviews. We show you how to craft that personal statement. We've had a lot of testimony from that group. A lot of people have shared how, you know, just from, you know, the tiny little text that we have added to their personal statement and their CVs, they've ended up, you know, getting so many invites to interviews. Some have actually gotten their sponsorship as we speak. Some are in the process of applying for their visas, which is exciting news. So when I invite you to say, well, come and join our hub, come, let's look at that personal statement. I know you'll be tired. I have come across people that say, you know what, it's so difficult getting into the NHS. We have, you know, unlocked the key to it. We have found a way to really unlock and come up with the best personal statements. And guess what? It doesn't cost you much to subscribe, really. It's about £3 that you have to pay to subscribe, and we can give you that one-to-one access to us. We coach you, we get to speak to you, we get to guide you through the whole application process. There are some mistakes that people are making when they are applying in the NHS, and that is one of the things that we want to go into, right? The biggest mistakes that a lot of people are making is, number one, using a generic personal statement, one personal statement for every job that they apply to. I used to be like that, and I know I'm not the only one that is doing that. A lot of people are doing that. They focus on pushing volumes and neglect quality. I always say this to the people that I speak to behind the scenes in my subscription group, to say, you know what, it could be the same trust but a different ward altogether. For each and every job that you're going to apply to, you have to come up with a personal statement that is different, that is actually suited for that job advert in particular, because it's a different department, it's a different job role altogether, and it does have different requirements. So this is where we come in and we'll help you with that. We'll show you how best to do that. The second mistake that people do is to target sponsorship only jobs. I'm testimony to just applying like crazy. I've come to a conclusion, and I've shared this with people that are in my subscription, to say, you know what gets sponsored is a person, not the job role. When I applied to this job that got me into the NHS, nowhere in that job advert did it say sponsorship, but I just applied randomly. I attended the interview. I gave it my best. I did my best in that interview. The next day they rang and they said, Flo, we're so excited to share with you that we really liked you and would like to offer you this job. I was so excited about that. And then they said, well, when are you coming to, get your uniforms, get a tour of the ward, and then we can arrange for a start date. No conversation about sponsorship. That is when I say to them, apparently I won't be able to come because I'm working for someone else and I'm on sponsorship and this is a full-time role. Guess what? They said, oh, we really liked you, but anyway, I don't understand how this sponsorship works, so I'll speak to HR. And minutes later, the HR rang and said, you know what, Flo, we're really sorry we'd overlooked the fact that you require sponsorship. We didn't look at that. So we're sending you a form, and that was the form that you fill in your details for your COS, and the rest is history. So I would say apply to each and every job for as long as it's a job that suits, the salary threshold is the main thing when it comes to these jobs. Apply to those jobs. You could be that person that they will invite for that, for that interview, and then you can end up, negotiating your way into sponsorship, or you can negotiate your way into joining bank. You can get guidance from all sorts. I've got testimony from people that applied for these jobs. We're told we're not sponsoring at the moment, but will you do this and this, join this and this, and they were guided in the rightful direction. Apply to these jobs. That's my advice. Another mistake that a lot of people are making is not upgrading. People are mainly focusing on just doing shifts, working overtime, and not upgrading. Other people out there are pursuing qualifications, and it's those people that will then have an edge over others. Specialization, working in mental health, getting those PMVA courses, clinical skills, you name it. It's the little tiny things, tiny small margins is what will get other people in, and you'll be left out. So if you're watching this video, please do fix those mistakes. The last mistake is applying without a strategy. I've said it at the beginning of the video that, you're realizing you've worked domiciliary since you came to the country. Get yourself some NHS experience, get yourself some volunteering experience, get yourself on the bank. It will give you leverage. Last but not least, the big mistake that people make is not networking. Part and parcel of what we do here is networking. When we say reach out to, to our subscription, it's part and parcel of networking. Because you just never know what the next person knows or what the next person has to say about these opportunities. And even in other communities, be it HHB, you could be speaking to, a nurse, a deputy ward manager, and pay attention to these things. And there are people that are sharing actually recruitment events. I've seen people share in groups. Don't underestimate the power of networking. Make good use of those communities that we're building on social media, everywhere else on platforms. It could be the breakthrough that you need. I'll share with you how I found out about the recruitment event that got me into the NHS. Just someone that I worked with at the second job had applied for that, and they said when I met them and we were just chatting away and said, well, did you see the recruitment event that they've advertised on Indeed? I had not even seen it. I was like, no, I didn't. And then I went on it, applied, and the rest is history. I'm one person who, in the group that is where I live, group of Zimbabweans, group of African migrants, I share opportunities as and when I see them. So do pay attention to those things. Be a part of those communities that can see you going forward in your career. So guys, the NHS is still hiring. Shortage is still there. The only thing that has changed is they've moved from those times, back then, a year ago, 2 years ago, where shortage would mean easy entry. That era is long overdue. Instead, what they're focusing really is on a structured system which focuses on competitive entry. Because they know there's a lot of people in the pool. They just don't want to, to end up just getting everybody through. They want to get the best. So you becoming the best, you positioning yourself as the best is one of the biggest favors that you can do for yourself. Sometimes I've always said, there are people that are asking me to say, well, should I go onto this course? Should I do this and this? I'm one person who never had an NVQ by the time that I went into the NHS. Sometimes all you need is to be able to put into language, into appropriate language, appropriate NHS language, the things that you already have, the experience that you already have, the competences that you already have, and you see yourself succeeding. A lot of you have what it takes to get in there. What you just need is a little tweak of your personal statement. And that is why we're here. We're here to help you with that. So the things that I really do emphasize when I talk to people is clarity, positioning, and strategy. Clarity in terms of knowing which jobs to apply to. One of the things that I always say to people is, I know there are times when we are faithing everything and we are bold in whatever applications that we're putting out. However, it's good to know which jobs to really target. If you're coming from a background of domiciliary support work, it's imperative that you target, community jobs, community hospitals, smaller hospitals, you target mental health institutions, because it's more or less the things that you are already familiar with, the training that you already have from your background in domiciliary and support work suits exactly that. However, nothing should stop you from also applying on the ward and other departments. However, if you are someone who is already on the bank, if you're someone who is already volunteered, you're already in the system, I would say be bold enough to then move towards bigger opportunities, even in the acute opportunities on the ward. Go for those ones. When it comes to positioning, speak the NHS language in everything that you do. In your personal statement, in your application, know the things that you have to say. And this is where we come in. We're talking the language, we're talking safeguarding patient care, safe care. We speak the language and speak the values, the NHS values, and you will be the right fit for them. I always say, when you are coming up with your personal statement, craft it in such a way that you're speaking directly to that organization, to the heart of what they believe, to the heart of the way that they work, to the heart of the things that bind them and make them the NHS, and you are guaranteed you get in. And we do help with that. So it's worth connecting with us through our Facebook subscription page. Again, I spoke about strategy. Apply intentionally. This is where we are saying, look out for opportunities everywhere. Attend recruitment events every day. Don't go to bed without checking vacancies within your area. Also, as part of the strategy, one of the questions that I ask people when I speak to them is, are you willing to relocate? You know pretty well there are areas, areas like Scotland has been massively recruiting. The outskirts, I live in rural England, I'm in Cumbria, and opportunities there, there are opportunities there. So look at your circumstances, look at what you can do. It's part and parcel of the strategy. And also, as part and parcel of strategy, we talk about volunteering, joining bank, networking. Those are some of the strategies. Don't sleep on these things. These are the very things that are getting people through to the NHS. So if you are looking into transitioning into the NHS, we are the place to be. On this platform, we'll be sharing tips, we'll be sharing opportunities, we'll be sharing how to in future videos. So all the more reasons why you need to subscribe if you haven't already done so. We look forward to having you on here, and do share this video with whoever that you feel could benefit from this video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye for now.